So welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us this Sunday afternoon. And welcome to our Sketch It Out episodes. So today, before we begin, just a few things. One, this episode is going to be recorded and available for everyone to, rewatch or share on our YouTube channel. If you want to stay updated or if you want to subscribe to our channel to get more information about guests before we announce them, visit layersofdesign.online. If you have any questions for our guests or for us, please leave them in the chat box. And at the end of the conversation, we will be sure to answer them all. Once you sketch, tag us on Instagram at layersofdesign_ and use the hashtag layersofsketches. Connect with us on Instagram, Pinterest, and Twitter. And if you haven't already, check out our episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all the works. So yeah, let's get started. As I said, welcome to Sketch It Out. This series is a new series hosted by us where, we have guests and we sketch as we get to know our guests. And today we have the pleasure of having Teri Watson with us, and we will be discussing educating young professionals about the real world. So a bit about Teri Watson. She's an architectural designer with a bachelor's in science in architecture, and then she also has a master's in architecture from FIU. She's the founder of Yen Studio in Miami, Florida, where she's an independent contractor on several beautiful projects. She's a member of AIA Miami, South Florida NOMA chapter, and Black Female Architects. And honestly, just from the moment I met Teri Watson, she's an inspiring designer. So I'm really excited for her to be on here, sharing her story and us getting to know her. So yes, let's get started. Welcome, Teri, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm actually super excited to be here.
Of course. So I know I introduced a bit, I just talked a bit about you, but I want you to tell us more about yourself and what you're up to right now.
Yeah, so right now I think we're all adjusting to the new lifestyle, but I am still independent contracting, still working on a few projects here. But a little bit about myself, I'm from Houston, Texas. I moved to Florida in 2008. So I've been here for quite some time. I attended Florida A&M University, and then I continued my studies at FIU, as you said. And I just had the pleasure of being able to work on numerous projects as an independent contractor, and currently still doing the same, still hanging in there, still testing. Of course, we're all on the path to licensure. So, having the support of other female architects and designers around me, as well as men. So I think it's great. And that's kind of where I am today.
Nice. Thank you. So what got you into architecture and design?
So funny enough, I actually didn't go to school for architecture. Like I didn't apply to be an architecture student. So I actually applied for commercial and advertising art, and then that program closed when I got there. So they put me in my third choice, which was architecture. And I was just like, oh, I know how to draw, like it'll be my third choice. And then they put me in architecture. So I kind of just happened to be there, which was quite a shock because I actually knew nothing. Like I didn't know anything, and I was the only girl in my section. There's about 3 sections in studio. So my freshman year, I was actually the only girl in my section, and all the guys, they took drafting classes in high school. They were prepared, and I was not. So after about 2 months of looking like I didn't know what I was doing, I got tired of that. I was like, okay, I need to figure this out. And then I figured it out. So I was able to, I started getting really active, after I got adjusted with what architecture is and what it entails, what it requires. So I was very active in my undergraduate career, was AIS vice president, president, did a lot of Went to all of the conferences, grassroots conferences. We ended up being one of the only Black chapters to win a South Quad design competition when I was president. So shout out to my vice president and my e-board, because we actually won the competition going into South Quad. So I was really active and just trying to get as much experience as possible. You know, and when I did like finally get into architecture and kind of dedicated myself, when my last year in undergrad school, I worked at AIA Florida in Tallahassee. Mm-hmm. So also a little bit of introduction into how professionals feel about AIA and like how, you know, that whole kind of world entails, like as far as membership and things like that. So I had a little bit of good introduction though, even once I got into it, you know, getting into like grad school and things like that.
So let me ask you real quick. I picked up on the fact that you were very active in school. How did that affect your career?
Good ways because I was able to see a lot that I like didn't see, you know, at school, right? Like we're just so into studio and certain things. So, like coming across other chapters, other students, it was really helpful. But I think it also helped in the sense that I want to say after my term of vice president, I realized, okay, I think I got to get a little bit more serious. Like I'm at a HBCU. I'm like, want to make sure I'm getting all of the things that I need to be successful. So it kind of put things in more of a perspective, I can say, because I was able to do a lot of, or participate in a lot of things. Like our school, we did legislative day. I think because we were in the Capitol, we had a lot of programs that we were able to do, maybe that other schools didn't, I'm not sure, but I know that, like I said, we did legislative day, and that's basically a day that AIA, all of the membership, like the members, AIA architects come to Florida throughout, they come to Tallahassee, and they are paired up with students at our school. And they're your mentor for the day. Mine ended up being my mentor until he passed away. And you're going and you're at the lobby, you're at the Capitol lobbying for bills pertaining to architecture and how it affects us. So putting myself in like positions like that, or being able to have those type of experiences actually helped, like, you know, while I was in school and continuing my education, and then trying to figure out what it is that I wanted to do in my career.
So that's awesome. You know, that helps a lot. And thank you for just expanding on that, on how being active, you know, just gave you a different perspective while you're in school. Because I think that's also something a lot of students forget. Because, you know, architecture is so consuming. We spend so much time in the studio. So just knowing that being active and getting out there, taking a step away from that desk can actually benefit the career. That's great to hear. So, you know, I know you didn't want to start with architecture at first, but now you're in it and you're killing it in the game, if I can say so myself. And I want to ask you, what's your passion for the profession now, for design and for architecture?
My passion is to help the local neighborhoods, communities. I think I say this all the time, like there's just so much work to be done, like on the ground, right? Like we understand that there are different realms within architecture, right? Like we need the innovation, we need the people who sit and do renders all day, we need those who are in the city reviewing, like we need everyone to participate, right? And I think that sometimes it can be a little bias of who we are working for, like the goal of what we're like putting out, right? And I think that it's just important to understand that, you know, when I go back home, that my areas are not just run down, right? And it's just like certain things, we can't forget the importance of our local neighborhoods and our local communities, and the people who reside in them. I mean, there's a lot of, you know, there's always renovations, there's always gentrification and certain things, but I think that it's important that we start to realize that everyone deserves nice things, and start figuring out how can we service, you know, the community. Economics is a part of every profession, right? We understand, but I think it's just really important in today's time and understanding how everyone matters. I think that is really important that architecture start to focus a little bit on that as well. So I think that's just my passion to also like just, have people understand that we're here, right, to service them. Like, I think our culture sometimes we may forget that, hey, you have these resources in your own communities and in your own neighborhoods, and it's important that we like continue to let people know what we do and that we are here for them. So I think that that's just my passion. People understand that we're next door if you need us. So we're accessible, and we're normal people too. So I think that's just kind of my passion.
That's beautiful. And I agree with you. I have a very similar passion too. And that's also why I got into architecture, to help underrepresented communities. Like you said, there's so many, we graduated with so many talented people, and all of our colleagues, most of our colleagues, they're going to go up and design skyscrapers and high rises over and over again. But then what happens to the communities that no one is thinking of, that people just see as a leftover almost? So that's also what I'm passionate about. And I think that's also why I'm so intrigued with your story and how far you've come. So let's get straight into our topic of conversation so we can start sketching.
Yeah.
Okay. So like everyone knows, we're going to be talking about educating young professionals about the real world. And from my conversation, the first conversation I had with Teri, after talking to her, we actually came up with this topic. And so my first question to you, Teri, is why choose this topic?
I think we're all lost when we come out. When we come out of school, like it's just, we never know what to do and we never know where to start. It's so many paths you can take as well. Like coming out of school, like, do you want to start testing right away? Do you want to get some experience right away? Like, do you want to work for a large firm? Do you want to work for a small company? I feel like, and a lot of these topics aren't discussed with us.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, we feel like that it seems like it's just one path, like you have to do a certain thing. And I don't think that's necessarily true. And I just think it's really important to kind of put some things in the air, maybe what I've experienced, what you've experienced, and people can kind of have a different perspective, or students and young professionals can have a different perspective of their options as young architectural designers and professionals. I think it's very important, for the progression, because there's a huge gap, right? Everyone always speaks about the gap between the old heads and the new, like whether it's with programs, whether it's with, everything is just always a huge gap. And half of it is the educational portion of it, of what you're dealing with in the real world versus what you're dealing with in studio and your other, courses. It's a huge gap. So I think this topic could possibly help those who are, able to listen.
Definitely. I completely agree. And I personally also love this topic because, just everybody's experience is different. And we kind of realize that years after, or a few years after graduating, and, we've gone down this path that a lot of people in school say is like the path for architecture students. You finish getting your master's or bachelor's, you get those IDP hours or the AXP hours, you get into a firm, you work, and then you take your license. It's that straight path. But the beauty in, growing and meeting so many professionals is that we notice we all have completely different paths, right? So can you tell me, actually, before I ask you that, tell us why you chose this building.
I love the Ribbon Chapel. I'm a big fan of like little gyms, like around the world, right? Like, again, not a skyscraper person. I think they're cute, right? Mm-hmm. But I love things that are like, it's just like, oh my God, what is that? That literally gives you an emotion. and like little pavilions and things like that, or nice little libraries and stuff. Like those are the things that I like. So the Ribbon Chapel is a very it's emotional, right? It makes you feel something. You don't even know what you're feeling, but you look at it and you feel something. And the story behind it is also like, you know, it not only is it a structural thing, aesthetic, but it is like literally a message of bridging two people, like intertwining two people together to hold and make something stand, right? Like that's what it is. And that was the purpose of the reason why these two staircases are structured and designed the way that they are. So I just like love this building. Came across it in undergrad, and it's always been one of my like top 10.
Yes.
So.
Yes, it's such a pretty building. And even just the thought process of designing it, I think it's so cool and it's so thoughtful as well. So, you know, everyone get ready and start sketching. And as we're sketching, we're going to keep going with the conversation.
Super blind, guys, so I gotta.
Yeah, I got mine on too. That computer, it's catching up. So, so yes, so I was going to ask you, can you start telling us your experience after graduating with your master's? What was it like? Like, what were you even thinking of? And did you go straight into a job? How was that?
So, well, I worked the entire time I was in grad school. So I did kind of go straight into it. I had an internship, and actually right when I was about to graduate, my mentor was on Miami Beach. She was like, yeah, Teri, you basically know too much and it's time for you to go. Like, you need to go work for a real company. And I was like, I don't want to. Like, you know, I was really comfortable. I wasn't getting paid much. And that was her thing. Like, you're no longer a student now. You need to put yourself in the professional world and give another student this opportunity. So I was like, okay. So I did the way that I've gone about getting all of my internships, and this is maybe a topic that we can discuss later, but I've never waited to hear if a company was looking for, you know, someone, or I never waited for a post. So what I did, and this is how I got, like, again, all my internships from undergrad. I put together like a little spiel, like I had a little email prepped, 4 or 5 sentences max, just introducing myself, who I am, what I'm looking for, a paid internship on these days, full-time, whatever it is. Here's my resume and portfolio attached. Send it directly to the principal, not at an info at, I sent it directly to whoever's over that firm. And I did that to every company in the city. Like, if I like your website, then I'm gonna apply, and I'm going to send you this email, because we all know that one is very competitive when you're dealing with internships, right? It's like you know, it's a hit or miss, and it may not be because you're not capable. It's literally just because someone else maybe have beat you to it, or maybe they didn't have time, or you know, you can miss out on opportunities if you're not in the right place at the right time. So I figured that if I just hit up the principal directly, then maybe I'll get a responsibility, because architects are you know, busy, right? Yes. A lot of times people need help on projects, but they're like, do you know anyone? Do you know anyone? And then if no one knows anyone, they just push through the project. But that could be the day where your email comes in and they're like, oh crap, we actually do need someone. So that's how I went about getting my first job out of grad school. I did give myself a month, I think, because I did work the entire time in school, and I was like, okay, well, let me get a break before I actually go into this real job. So I did give myself some time. I think I gave myself about a month to sit around and prepare myself, and then I went in. And yeah, I just started working, and that company is the company that I'm still contracted with today. They gave me a lot of opportunities and a lot of learning lessons. Like, they just did a lot for me early and right out of school, which is why I was able to get the experiences that I had. And I think it's just very important of understanding and picking these companies, right, and who you want to work for, because they they do kind of define what you'll be doing right out of school. And I was blessed enough to find, you know, a company that asked me, what is it that I want to do? What is it that I want to learn, and how can they help me? And I specifically told them I want to learn how to do construction documents, because school didn't do it for me, right? Like, school didn't teach me how to do construction documents. So they literally they said, okay. They handed me a 100-year-old building in South Miami, Sunset. And I had to do the construction documents, project managing, and construction administration. That was my first project. And that project lasted 2 years. So I learned a lot out of that. And that actually helped me continue to progress and do other projects. So I did hop kind of, you know, right out of grad school. I just went ahead and hopped into a company.
So, okay. So a couple things. First of all, it's amazing that you had a mentor that, you know, was able to push you to keep going and to really reach that, reach that point in your career where you're able to start doing things on your own. Secondly, you mentioned, and I know I also mentioned, how you're an independent contractor. I would like to, because, you know, we've had this conversation, but I want the audience to know, what exactly is an independent contractor, and why did you get into it as opposed to just being like an employee, like a 9-to-5 employee, like most architecture students, you know, end up being after grad school?
Right. So independent contracting is basically you work for yourself. You just provide services to other people. So basically I get contracted with a company, whether it's a project, they need help on your drawings. So then I'll do their construction drawings, and I'll do their project managing and things like that. I think that so I was that's the way that my career or professional career kind of started, right? Okay. So so I never wanted to work for a large company. That was it's just not me. So I'm very big on, everyone knows, like, I'm kind of the rebel, right? Like, I just do what I want to do, you know, I prefer to do what I like to do, so stay happy. Let's put it that way.
That's important.
Yes. So, you know, and I think that also you have these, you hear while you're in undergrad and things, right? Like, you're going to get stuck doing bathrooms and stuff. I just I don't have time for that. I'm trying to, you know, it's things that I want to do. So I just knew that I didn't want to work for a large company. So working for smaller companies, 9 times out of 10, they're going to hire you as an independent contractor. At least in the beginning, to see how it is that, you know, you're working, and before that they commit to paying your employee fees, taxes type situation. So even when I was with my mentor, I was an independent contractor. So that's how I got into it. And even in internships prior, I was independent contracting. I want to say my previous 4 internships before, I was still independent contracting. So I was just that's kind of how I started, and I enjoyed it because I wasn't anyone's employee. And I mean, yeah, you miss out on the benefits, right? Like, you miss out on the real world things of that. But for me, it's just, I was really comfortable with it, and I was still getting the hours. I was still present. I was still able to do things that I wanted to do. And my mentor also, even when I was still in college, she encouraged me to start my company. She was like, you need to start an LLC now, start marketing yourself, doing things, like, it's going to take you a long time to get your first client. And I mean, she was like, she kept me prepared. So all these things were happening consecutively to where I'm like just established, like, okay, I was independent contracting for a year. On this point, you know, you're dealing with your taxes, you're dealing with things like that. I'm like, okay, yeah, starting my company. Now they're paying my company. They're not, checks aren't going to Teri, they're going to in studio. I'm like, okay, this is lit, right? Like, I can do this. So I kind of stayed, and I was like, I've just been doing that. They're comfortable. And it also gives me time and space to do other things. Like, I'm not strictly under someone else's control. So that level of freedom is also very important as you're trying to establish yourself as a young designer. Like, and again, I think it defines on what it is that you want out of your career. You know, I don't think that that's the path for someone who wants to work for a large company or like that'll probably never happen. You know, like those options probably aren't the best options for you. But if you are trying to get, you know, numerous experiences, trying to figure out, you know, how different companies work while you're trying to understand and grow, I think that could be an option for students and young professionals. But it's just knowing that you don't have to be tied to get the experience. Like you don't have to you just don't have to do it. You can choose to, but it also, again, it depends on your long-term goals. Like, I know I don't want to work for someone forever, right? That's the point of getting licensed. That's the point of being able to work on your individual goals. And I know that, you know, again, when you work for a company, just like school, it's kind of your life, you know, and do you want to dedicate that much time? I mean, mentally, your mental health and your happiness, like just what makes you happy. And I know that me being able to be busy, like every day doing like, okay, I gotta go pick up drawings, I gotta go do this, but I'm still like a little independent, that's happy for me. Like that keeps me comfortable, that keeps me in the profession, because I think a lot of times we put ourselves in positions in firms, or I've seen other people put themselves in positions with firms and they're just very unhappy, and then they leave the you know, the whole profession altogether. And I think it's not necessarily that they didn't like architecture, it just may have been the firm. It could have left a bad taste, left for the career, the profession. Now we lost someone that could have helped us, you know. So I think it's just really important to understand what it is that you're looking for out of your career, and then, you know, make your rules accordingly, play by the rules that you want to play by, adjust some of the rules, ask questions, like ask if they're willing to do independent contracting, or are they willing to have an independent contractor? I mean, think about it. They contract anyway. You could have your different consultants. You're just looked at as a consultant. You have your MEP consultants already. You have your structural consultants already. You're just another design consultant. It's not really any different than if you kind of were working in an office, right? Like, it's not like you're signing and so you're still working on someone else's drawings. You're still producing for that company, whether you're in the office or not. So they're still signing off on it, you know, if it's for them, you know, you're just getting your experience. You're just putting yourself, and you're keeping yourself open to actually do that with numerous people with the right time management skills, right? So I just think if you're able to kind of, you know, define where you want to go in your career a little bit more than just working for one company. But there are companies that can take you where you want to be, right? You know, if they're doing the projects that you like, it's pros and cons to both, you know, and doing both. But I just think it depends on the individual.
Definitely. So you said something that really stood out to me just now. You mentioned how you said you don't have to be tied to get the experience, right? You don't have to be tied to a company. And I do think that's another thing that a lot of architects and designers forget, or rather, we're not really exposed to the whole idea of independent contracting, right? Like I said, there's this like linear path that we're taught, or we're drilled in while we're in school. You have to go to school, get a job, get your license, and then what next? Mm-hmm. But you even just saying that and reiterating the point that you don't have to be tied down, that's comforting. That's comforting, you know, especially, I mean, and it was very comforting for me after our conversation, because, you know, like I had shared with you, I just left a job where it was time for me to move on, okay? Right. And while I was in this in-between stage, I started thinking, what exactly am I going to do? Because I've had a couple other jobs that, you know, like you said, that have left a bad taste. And honestly, I'm at the point where I'm like, I really love the profession and I know exactly why I got into it and why I continue with it. But do I really want to go back working for an architecture firm? You know, like just because of that experience, right? So it's important that we keep having these conversations and we keep educating young professionals and people still in school that, you might not want to work for a small firm. You can still do this on your own through independent contracting. So how do you think, or no, not how do you think, how do you thrive as an independent contractor?
You have to, it's a lot of marketing yourself, which is very new for me. I'm a very like, you know, very solo type of person. So I never really put myself out. I try to let my presence and like speak for itself, because, you know, you just want to come across very humble.
Yeah.
So I try to do that, and I'm now getting to the point where I'm like, okay, look, this is me. I'm like, you know, I do this. But it is a lot of letting people know, right? Like what it is that you're doing, that you are of service to them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like you are your company, you know, you are, if no one knows what you do, then you're not going to make any money. And then you might as well go get a 9 to 6 because you have a life to live, right? Or 9 to 5. Yeah, it's just putting yourself out there, letting them know, like, or if you come or you're at your meetings, like, hey, you need help or a project, you know, I have some free time. I mean, you know, just those simple conversations that you come across with designers that you can have, or different architects that you can have those like conversations to where you can bring up business a little bit, you know, and talk about those things and see if they do have any opportunities for you. Or you can be, you know, you can do a contract with them for a project only, where you're in their office for that 6 to 8 to 12 months, however long it takes for that project. And then you can go for another company and, hey, try to see what that is. And I'm pretty sure you'll lead good relationships. So if they ever need you again, you know, you have a firm on your side. Like, yeah. And that's how it works. It's networking just like anything else. So I think it's just very important to understand. Like, I know sometimes we can get super weird in environments, and, you know, architects, we're so used to computer people, we're computer people, right?
Yeah.
It's like, once you start interacting with people, you're kind of like, what do I say? Like, what do I say? Like, this is weird. I'd rather just like go get on the computer, right? So we already are in that bubble, but I think it's so once you talking to people or architects and you're trying to like network yourself, they're just like you. So you can be comfortable, you can have those conversations, and they can give you advice, or they may know someone. Like, it's all about that networking if you're a contractor, because no one knows you, right? You're not tied to anyone, you're not tied to a company, you know. But once you do get those resources, then people start knowing you, and like, hey, I worked on this project with you before, you were with so-and-so, and they'll start seeing you on site with another project, you know. Like, it's just, again, yeah, it's just strictly networking. Like, that's really what it is.
Yeah, I'm putting yourself out there. So talking about independent contracting and Yen Studio. We've talked about Yen Studio, but we don't really know what Yen Studio is. So can you please tell us what Yen Studio is? You know, your vision for it, your passion, you know, everything, even down to the name, honestly.
Well, so crazy, because I'm actually in a name change, which is about to change the name of my company, and it'll be final. Like, the new name is like defines some of the things we've talked about. So Yen Studio was started just so that I can help anyone who needs things in their neighborhood. Like, I had a friend whose mom wanted a new kitchen for Thanksgiving. So we went in, designed her new kitchen, and she was able to have a new kitchen. Or, you know, I have some people that need master planning, or just things before they get, like, to help them start planning for these new projects, right? I think a lot of times, my experience is working for companies, you start to, you know, my favorite quote is, you know, once you put yourself in an environment and you're educated, then you start to critique the environment in which you're educated. So you start to see things that you're like, okay, you could have actually helped this client out a little bit more, let them know that this actually, like, you know, like, they don't understand what it is that we do, right? They don't understand the process. They don't understand the 5 phases of a project, right? Like, we just sometimes kind of just push them through these phases, and when they have these questions or have these change orders or have this misunderstanding of what it is, it's because no one really discussed it with them. So I just try to catch them before, to help them like actually plan it out and understand, or provide them drawings that they can go get priced out, right? To understand what this project costs, or things like that. So that's really what Yin Studio was created for, is for efficient proposals to understand what it is you can and can't do with your property, or things that you want to do with, you know, a new store or your home, or it's just to provide those services, design services for individuals in your communities.
Nice, very nice. Well, you know, anyone that's listening, if you're looking for someone to help you out, Yen Studio, Teri Watson is here, so take advantage. So, what is your favorite thing about design, actually?
It's seeing things come to life. You know, it's always that period of like, you have this concept, right? You're super excited about it, and then you realize how much work it's going to be to get that together, right? So you got to like do it, and then it's like, well, once you see your work and to see like how you came up with something, and that it's real and it's usable for people, and it actually could be a life-changing structure for someone, I think that that's like the beauty of design. Like I said, I love things that are emotional. I love architecture that's emotional. So just having that purpose, I think that's like the best part of the design, to utilize literally the health, safety, and welfare of the public. Like, how can the public utilize this space, right? And I know that, you know, in architecture, sometimes we don't get to define what that is. We work within a lot of parameters that people don't understand, right? And we're trying with the cities and with all of that, we try to find the medium of what our creative side of helping people, like that's really what architecture is. We just want to help. Like that's really how we're trying to do it. And I think once you figure that out, as a designer, once you figure out what that is and how you can do it, I think that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of how you design for people and how people can utilize your tangibles in the world. Like that's the part that I love the most. Right?
That's awesome. So real quick, back to Yen Studio, right? Mm-hmm. Where do you see your practice in like 5 years, let's say?
In 5 years, I see me having a few little young female staff. I'm very supportive of the, you know, the girls, the women in this field. I tell people all the time, like, when you come across me, just know that you're coming across other hundreds, because I'm not the only one, right? It's the more that we interact, I get to know you, they get to know you, you know, they get to see other people that you're gonna interview. Like, it's so many of us. So I do see myself having a small firm. I don't want anything big, you know. I like to be very personable, very like stay very local. So I do see myself, you know, doing competitions for meaningful projects. That's a big goal of mine. And I see myself in Houston and Florida, Texas and Florida, doing projects. Of course, my hometown. I have to do it in Texas, but I think, yeah, I see myself just being very comfortable in the profession, like, and what the services that I provide, and making sure that whatever Yin Studio does, it's actually servicing someone, like communities, and or like it just changes whatever project it is. It changes someone's life. I think that's very important for me. Those are my goals within the company.
Oh, wow. That's nice. I'm really excited to see how much Yen Studio grows, because if you have not checked it out already, please, you know, take a moment to check out her page, her Instagram page, and her website. And, you know, she has posted on there some of her work, and it's beautiful. Just the aesthetics alone is beautiful.
And I can't, like, and again, let me say, I give 100% credit to R&B. That is a company that I've been contracted with. Very blessed to be contracted with them. They've given me that opportunity to do those projects. So again, like, yeah, I'm very grateful to have those on my portfolio. That's not something that, you know, I did alone.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, I'm saying, like, I didn't find those projects alone, right? Like, they came from me contracting, and again, having two individuals, because it's a small company, it's only 3 of us, and we do large. I mean, as you see, we've done 2 projects in the design district. We've done projects on Miami Beach. We're working on 2 towers right now in Doral. So because we're very small, but we're very busy, they're able to throw me 3 projects at a time and say, Teri, all right, here. Like I get the, the smaller, quicker ones where I'm like able to, which are the retail stores or the commercial buildings that have 4 or 5 tenants. Those are the ones that they know that I can knock in. I can do the cities. I can make sure everything gets to the city, coordinate with the MEP. Like those are opportunities that I were given. So it's very important selecting, the people that you work for. Or the people that you're contracted with, so that they understand your value and they continue to give you things that you want to work on to progress. So yeah, those projects came out of pure blessing. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you just said how it's important to select people that you work for, right? And I know we had this conversation as well the first time. You've also touched on it a bit here, but just talk a bit more, because for young professionals that are either lost or just leaving school, why is it so important that we look for, because it can be very discouraging too, when we keep applying and no firm gets back to us, and at a point we're just like applying to anywhere just to get a job, right? So let's talk about the importance of looking and doing that research on the companies that you're applying to. Like, why is that so important?
Yeah, it's because it's your career, right? Like it's literally the beginning of your career. So you're defining what it is that you want to do, because your resume is based off of what you've done. So people, when you go for that new job, they're going to be like, hey, what have you done? And if you work for someone that you haven't really done nothing, it's setting yourself back on where you can be. So, and I know the firm culture is very different, and you don't know what it is that you want until you actually participate in it. But as soon as it does, or as soon as you do get into those environments, don't be afraid to ask questions. Like I tell people all the time, when you're in your interview, you can interview too, right? Because you're interviewing to see if they're interviewing you to see if you are a good fit. You're interviewing them to see if they're a good fit as well. Ask all the questions. Ask anything that you need to know to figure out, do you fit in that firm? You don't have to. Yes, it's very hard getting internships. It's very hard getting jobs. Like I said, I applied. I sent emails to every single firm in Miami. Like I'm not joking. Like I sent like I think it was like a 2-day thing. So I literally would just go through Google. If I like the website, I'm sending directly to the principal. So, and you can imagine, right, out of all of those hundreds of firms, I want to say I only got, out of every time I would do that, maybe like 10 replies. Wow. So it's not, whatever path it is that you take, I'm not saying that it's going to be easy. You're going to have to put in that work to figure out where you want to be in your career, but don't think that you have to settle just for the firm that gives you that opportunity, because that firm may be hell. Like that firm, you may not even like that company, and then you're still back to square one anyways, and you didn't get the experience, and it was kind of a waste of time. Like, make sure you're defining, make sure you're asking those questions, and because you want to be very direct about where you want to go. Like you got, everything has that rolling clock, right?
Yeah. That rolling clock.
Everything has that rolling clock, right? You're fighting against your rolling clock. And, because you want as much, we know that it's hard to get it because you don't have experience. So you don't want that to continue to be the excuse of why you can't get hired. So figure out ways how you can get some jobs, and also extend yourself to be, hey, I can just help with this project and you can keep me on if you need to. Like, put those ideas in the heads, because again, we are the young professionals. So we have those new skills. Those skills. It's like, okay, well, I don't have to be in your office. Like, if you want me, need help, and I'm just looking for experience, what can I do? Put those ideas out there to those companies that you could be interviewing with, and seeing, they may say, oh yeah, that's cheaper for them. It's cheaper for them, and you kind of get your experiences, and then then you can see, okay, actually I do like a firm. I do like being in team projects, and I like participating. I like being in the meetings. I like doing this. Like, if then you'll start to see if the firm culture is for you and what type of firm culture. We all know every firm is different. So I just think it's really important to understand, you know,
what you're looking for. And
mm-hmm.
I completely agree, especially in our profession. It's like, it's such a tricky profession too, because sometimes it's almost like you need to understand who you are almost as a designer, and you know what you're looking for, because again, architecture varies, right? Like, there's healthcare, there's residential, there's civic, institutional, aviation. There's so many different sectors that you could branch into. And honestly, with every firm, is like you're learning something new, you're discovering something new. So it's important to also do that research on why exactly am I applying to this job, you know, and going into that interview, like, ask them those questions, like, what's, you know, what, if I'm giving you this, what, and honestly, it's not that easy, right? We're saying it now like it's something that's easy, because when you're, yeah, it's scary. Like, when you're sitting there in front of, let's say, 4 principals, you know, and they're asking you all these questions, and in your head, you're just like, I have no practice. Like, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just trying to get an internship. It can be scary, but it is worth it to push yourself outside that box.
Yeah, and again, it all goes back to understanding what it is that you want. Like, I know that I want to become a registered architect, right? So that is where the drive of me wanting to understanding how it is to be independent and being able to work on multiple projects, being able to be that, even if you're, you know, because when you start a company, you may not be in an office. You may be doing your home thing, working a home office, trying to be professional, work on your time management, build yourself up. So I think that is also something, again, I knew undergrad, right? Like, I knew, like, okay, I'm going to get licensed regardless, right?
Yeah.
So once the independent contracting was introduced to me right after graduation from grad school, I'm like, okay, actually this may not, like, yeah, huge pay cut. Like, be like, understand, but I also knew that it would give me a lot of experience that I would need very early on. And I thought that was really important for me, because I know how I learn, right? I know that if I'm in a small firm and I have someone that I can literally go ask some questions, I'm literally in every meeting. There's no project that comes through the door that I don't touch.
Wow.
I don't see how that could not help me once I'm actually licensed.
On your own. Yeah.
Yeah, and knowing how to do construction, like, that is just a big thing for me. I need to know how to do construction. You can't be a good designer if you don't know how to do construction documents. Like, we can dream all day, we can put presentation boards together all day, we can do those things, but how do I put this in a CD set? How do I coordinate this with MVP? How do I get this through the city? How do I have to go into the board if this is historical? Like, understanding what that is. And I think, you know, again, working for numerous firms will give you that different ways of how companies do it. Like I said, my mentor, Juliana, she's the reason why I was able to get my first job, because when I worked for her, she does all of her expediting. I wasn't introduced to expediters until I got for this company. We were running the permit, so I had the experience to say, okay, well, I've been in the city. I know how it works. So I had a little bit under my belt before, you know, working for them. So it's just, again, knowing what it is that you want to do and being very, very consistent and in your goals for yourself. Like, a company has goals, but you have
goals too.
So you just kind of just have to define what that is within yourself and what's comfortable for your life too, right? We all have responsibilities and things, so definitely do what's best and comfortable for your life, but being very true to, again, if you want to be a registered architect, if you want to just, you want to work for a company and you don't really care to be licensed and you just want to make sure that you're helping out and you're on those teams projects, all of it is good, right? We need it all. So a big firm is nothing without, their senior architect, their junior architect, their interns, every department is very important for every project. So just figuring out where it is that you fit in this whole profession and what makes you happy to stay with it, because we need everybody, right?
Yeah.
We need every single person who's interested in architecture. So I just think that that's very important. I'm really big on that. And like I said, I'm the little rebel one. So I'm like, okay, well, what can I do so that I like to do? You know, my friend calls me the rebel designer. So I am very true to that. Like, I'm like, you can do what makes you happy. Like, I'm that type of person.
For
like,
sure.
Do what makes you happy, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and figure out what makes you happy. That's very important.
It's important. I mean, especially this year, after everything that's gone down, you know, it's really time for people to start thinking, what exactly makes me happy? So, being a Black business owner, a Black designer, soon to be architect, how, you know, I feel like we are in a unique position in this profession, right? Because we're setting that pace for designers and architects that are coming after us.
Right.
So what do you see your role in architecture, being a Black female?
Yeah, I hope that I can be of some inspiration of knowing that they can do it. Like, seeing me, I hope someone else can be like, okay, well, I can do it too. But I also want to help educate students a little bit more. Like, I just felt so lost in school. Like, I don't know, I felt like a lot of things in the real world was not explained to me. Again, it's that educational gap, right? Of trying to figure out how you're going from a student to a young professional. And there's so much information, like there's so many things, but helping people or students figure out, you know, that path. I think that's very important for me. And yeah, like being able to define who you are, and knowing that this is doable, right? Like, you can be a Black designer. We're people. Like, you know, we have to put that label so people can understand that we matter, right? Like, we're that 4% that do matter. And so it's a lot of intelligent of that 4%. So it's like we always have to put that label on there to make it known. But I think that it's just showing other young students that there are numerous ways, and not being so negative about it. Like, you know, we all had those professors who weren't able to do what they wanted to do in their career, so they kind of like tell you, you're going to be stuck doing those bathrooms and stuff like that. And it's like, you know, why aren't you, like, instead of telling me what I'm going to be doing that's not very fun, like, why don't you tell me, how can I be successful? Like, what was your experiences? Like, I just think that being open about our experiences, because we all have we all have those different paths, right? So, you know, listening in to how other people that came before us would have helped us, you know, having those conversations with professionals would have helped me. So I feel like, you know, making myself accessible, you know, little old me, making myself accessible to people, if they, you know, students, if they have questions, you know, or needing help. I was never shut down. You know, anyone that I needed to ask questions for, they were always there for me. Like I said, I was very lucky. My first mentor, he was a white male. And when I say that it was so great. Like, he never, you know, those looks that you get, or, you know, those, you know, just that weird, like, I watched a podcast about this, the imposter syndrome, right? Like, you feel like you don't belong, but you're there, but it's like they're kind of the elephant in the room, like, you're the Black person that's there in this world. But he never made me feel like that. He was an AIA president in 2012, 2013. And AIA Florida president, and he was Disney's Imagineer. He did all of the, like, roller coasters. He designed the roller coasters at Disney, like Cinderella's Palace and things like that. And he just extended himself to me anytime I needed him. So having someone like that, you know, influenced me. So I hope that if I make myself accessible, knowing that I'm just like you, I was just like you, make them comfortable, invite them into this world, showing that it's actually a loving environment. We can all work together. Like, I think that that's something that's very important too for students because we're so fearful. Like we're so scared when we come in, you know, and I think that just having that warm feeling of like, I'm just the girl next door who just is interested in the same thing that you are. Like, okay, so, all right, little black girl, what is it that you need? Like, what can I help you with? Like, you know, because that's how I was treated. So I don't see myself like being any different for anyone else that comes after me. Like, I think it's the only way to keep, you know, the profession going, especially for us.
For sure. Wow, that's beautiful, honestly. And I mean, you know how you said you just hope to inspire? I think you're already doing it. So you're already inspiring us and everyone coming after you. So I'm going to be taking questions right after this question. I'm going to be taking questions from our audience right after this one question I asked you. But real quick, if you still have any questions you want to ask, please put them in the chat box. And if you feel like sharing your sketches, also put that in the chat box so we can see them now.
I'm trying to finish.
I know, right? It's kind of hard, like sketching and talking.
I know, I'm almost done.
No problem. So this final question for you. What advice would you give young professionals that are just graduating and starting their careers in the architecture field?
Don't sacrifice. Like, don't sacrifice, but be very thorough, you know, make sure you're constantly building your portfolio, like literally in the computer, keep up with it because it's always a scram when you need it. So just make sure you're keeping on the skills that you learned in school. Those are very tangible for firms, especially when you're thinking of extending yourself as a service. We learn a lot in school, a lot of things that we just we don't utilize, you know, right? We're so busy trying to learn the real world that we're getting all these programs, all these techniques that can make us very valuable, you know, in the real world. So stay on top of the things that you learned in school, continue to educate yourself about the profession, right? Like there are a lot of times that we're trying to understand these topics, but just continue to like read books about the profession, read books about things that you want to learn or the things that you care about, the topics that you care about in this profession, again, to educate yourself, you know, that is really important. And don't be afraid to go out and apply for these positions of however it is you want to, if it is a big company, if it's a small company, or if you just, I know there were times where I was able to go in and just talk to people at firms, like, they were just like, you have any questions for us? And I would go in and ask them questions like, how is it working here? Like, you know, like being to understand so you're comfortable and knowing that these professionals are just like you. We're just like you. We're figuring out no project is the same. So we all are constantly learning and seeing how we can make the world a better place, right? So just be very confident. I mean, it's a in-person critique every day. Just think of if you can make it in school, you know, you can make it. You've done all of the legwork to present yourself with these skills. So continue to put yourself out there, continue to understand what is it, the best thing that you can do, you know, and get your experience. Like everyone deserves the experience.
Yeah.
You don't get it. You spend all this time in school to learning how to design and learning how, so go get the experience so that you can do it. You know, however that may be, whatever is comfortable for you, go get that experience, go make yourself better, go be of service, you know, that's what you went to school for.
For sure. Thank you so much, Teri, for that. That was a great chunk of advice. So I hope everyone has taken notes and will apply this. We're going to move on now to the questions. So, well, there's some comments here. One is Teri is amazing, which I completely agree. Another one, which is so Craig asked this: I love Teri's independent nature, much respect. Can you talk about registration? Is that important to you?
Yes. Oh, what, registered architect?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's especially for our culture, we got to get the numbers up. So I think, yeah, registration, it should be any designer's like biggest goal. You want to be able to be proud of you've done the work to do these construction documents and everything. You at least want to have that experience to sign and seal that thing. That's yours, that's your name, that's what you work for. And being able to be a registered architect on other projects with other registered architects, I mean, it's an elite thing, it's not easy to become registered. We all know that the requirements are changing every day, like everything's changing right now. So, NCARB is making some huge changes right now. So, I think it is very important. And again, just to put in that work to say, okay, I've made sure that I've learned everything that I can learn to make sure that I provide that health, safety, and welfare of the public. Like that you put in the work to do that. And I think it's something to stand proud for, to be able to say, hey, I am an architect. That's the whole, we've learned that in undergrad, right? You need to until you better not say anything until you're licensed. So you want to have that moment. And I think that that's very important, very important for any designer, architectural designer. Mm-hmm.
Definitely. So this is sort of like a follow-up to that question. And it's, how is it going for you in your journey to registration?
It is going very good. So I am 2 exams away.
Yes.
From becoming licensed. So I started my journey, I want to say, a year and a half after graduating with my master's. So I'm about 3 years in. So yeah, it's tough. All I can say is definitely dedicate. Make sure that whenever you do start, educate yourself on the process first before you take any of the exams. Make sure that you understand, what it is, the types of tests that, or the order that you want to do, what each test entails. Make sure you understand that you need to dedicate your life, and the people who are in your life consistently should understand that this is a process that you're about to go through. I can personally say that for myself, I had that year 2 of testing was a big growth period for myself. You learn a lot about, you're teaching yourself, right? Over half the things that are on this test you did not learn in school. So it is a big learning curve for yourself, especially as now an adult, now that you are not in school. And some people you can test while you're in school now. So even if you are testing while you're in school, or whether you're at a firm, you're still learning to maneuver your schedules, the things that you have to do. So you have to make sure that the people around you aren't a distraction. That's very important for people to understand. So yeah, that for me, I found the love in the process. It took some time, but I did find that love, because it's only going to make you a better designer. Like, you don't want to be out here doing things that you don't know.
Oh, yeah.
You don't want it. That's not a service, right? Like, that's not a good service to anyone. So I think going through the tests and educating yourself is really important. So for me, it's been a journey. I took a test not too long ago. I took PDD for the first time. And my score report wasn't that bad. So I was like, okay. So, but you're, understanding that there are going to be fails, right? Understanding that, you're teaching yourself, give yourself credit, celebrate when you don't pass, celebrate that you took it. There are a lot of people that aren't testing.
Yes.
So it's also accomplishment to schedule, to pay,
to study,
and to test. Like, it is still an accomplishment. So I think that that's very important. So yeah, I'm on the journey along with others. I'm still on that process, not giving up like others. So hopefully, very soon I will be licensed as well in the state of Florida. But yeah, my process, you're just understanding your process is different. Everybody's process is different, right? So being able to just interact with people who are testing as well makes it very comforting. Um, so I've had, you know, two Archie sisters on my side throughout the whole process. One was Sophia. And
Yes.
that's my, like, her and another friend of mine, Laura, that went to undergrad, that went to FAMU with me. They are my support system, like, you know, so you do need, you're gonna need a support system. You're gonna need that constant motivation from yourself too, because you're gonna have a period probably where you're like, yeah, I don't know, like, I don't know about this, but it's worth it, right? It's very much worth the sacrifice. So just make sure you dedicate your time to it and be true to it, and you'll see the results of being able to pass. But for me, yeah, my process has been, it's been a very big learning experience for myself personally and professionally. I think it's necessary. Unfortunately, the test.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing your experience, you know, and because I know a lot of people shy away from talking about it because it's hard.
Yeah, but you know, when you get on the ARE community and you start seeing people, I failed it 5 times. I'm like, I mean, not 5 times, but you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It happens, you know? So that is very comforting to know that you're not dumb. You know, it's not that you don't know it. It's just that you didn't learn it and you're teaching yourself on a state level exam. You know, it's serious. It's very serious. So just, yeah, understanding that you're not the only one. It's you know, it's important.
Definitely. So another question. Is it hard to find work on your own, or do you have a network of contacts that keeps your business busy?
Yeah, so because I've been working professionally for 6 years now, I do have like those people like, hey Teri, I need help on a project. I'm like, okay, cool. Please also remember that I am contracted with someone, so when they get projects, I get projects. So, you know, that helps as well. Very new platform like Instagram has been very well. Yeah, I've gotten a lot of projects via Instagram. So that's something different. You know, social media is new, so that is something I didn't expect to happen. But yeah, again, building that network, going to these events, going to architecture events, making sure you stay active, just again for your personal social input on architecture, what's going on, but also that, you know, that's where you meet people, and that's where you you have to put in the work, because you're not you're not the firm, like you're yourself. So yeah, but being contracted with a company, that gives me a lot of the work, a lot of the experience that I need.
Nice. So our last question is, what have you found is the best platform to find your clients and to market yourself? Do you attend any sort of seminars or business development seminars?
No, I haven't done any business development seminars. I can honestly say my mentors are my business seminars. Like, again, they've been kind of molding me, you know, for quite some time now. So I've been able to learn a lot from them, because they are independent. So they were very helpful, and that has been my like go-to. I utilize my resources to the fullest. I'm not afraid. Like I'm telling you, I call my mentor every project that I've touched. Like, I call my mentor, get her input, see how, you know, I should present things, and you know, I'm not a one person type of deal. I have a friend in Tampa who every single person that comes across that needs a project, he tells them, you know, he calls me. So.
Amazing.
Yeah, so I've just been able, again, I'm just very blessed. I'm not a person that's done this by myself. I have a support system that I've built around me, and people that supported me, and that continues to, so that helps out a lot. So again, the way that you present yourself, showing how humble you are, staying humble in this profession, it can be very rewarding, but you just constantly have to put in the work. to understand that you can't do it alone. You know, like you can't. No matter, you are independent contracting, but think of that as just building yourself, right? Like that doesn't mean that you're able to do it by yourself, because you're gonna need the support. And you're going to want to be someone else's support as well. So yeah, understanding that. But I think for me, yeah, I built a network here in Florida because I've been here so long. And I do have, you know, friends and things that are very, very supportive. And Instagram is it helps a lot.
It does. It does.
Yeah, it helps a lot. Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, we have a last, it's a comment, right? And I'm really enjoying the conversation. As expected, Teri is a very interesting person. I really respect her bravery to do her own thing. What a great episode, and so excited for you. So I completely agree. Thank you for that great comment.
I love Craig. Thank you.
I know, he's the best.
I'm excited to be his member of NOMA. Like, I'm
right?
Right. So, you know, I watched his episode. He's a great inspiration as well.
He is.
This is the day I've actually met him. I met him at a Women in Architecture event. And yeah, he was really super nice. So I'm excited to be in his chapter.
Yes, I know. Me too. I'm so excited. He's amazing. Okay. Well, that wraps up our episode. We've gone through the questions. Our next live episode is on October 18th. So if you would like to know the guest before we release it on our Instagram and every other social media platform, please go to layersofdesign.online to subscribe. And thank you so much, everyone. Thank you especially to our guest, Teri Watson, for joining us this Sunday afternoon and sharing your experiences and your story and great, great advice.
It was a pleasure being here. Super excited. I'm so happy for your platform. I think what you're doing is great. So I'll definitely continue to support you and put your stuff out, make sure people are supporting you as well and helping grow your following. So I think this is very important as well.
Thank you so much, Teri. Well, have a great day, everyone.